That's it. How much?
I'm so sorry. Were you in Thailand? It was me who turned off.
We will get started. Jennifer?
Last what any had some good things.
All right, so we'll get started.
Then in so that you did you can tell live tower not on live tower not the get the share chat get you namjo lami get the give share the non ni chacho could lagom circle namjan road chip party not the karzi de what is it.
So now in the foundation of all good qualities, we've reached the part of the foundation of all good qualities that's talking about Tantra. And Tantra can be divided into action Tantra, performance Tantra, yoga Tantra, and highest yoga Tantra. And in those, they all practice deity yoga. And today we're going to be talking about action Tantra.
Last what any chacho could you lagom to the chiparita, Katina lagom zediti, Karina Samnita, lagom to the Karina Samni. Hako yo maris montangani atso tension round tension laurita so gari gomna ndikire kerez gomna rita sanjem kerez ndawo chiko matso tiri ha gom chicken goni shena la ma to ketoni la gom tndra mongo yora kerez gomza me la gomza andra anji chiko gomza ringatso joker goni chikshena te desaro sams.
So when we talk about deity yoga, there's many different yidams or deities that one can practice, that one can meditate on. And we're going to be using the practice of Tara, and specifically white Tara, just as an example of how to do these practices.
One may not nearly lobjon the Jago do some Chiresha Karas at the lobjon of women I want to Mundo. Songs like nearly lobjon pushing not so at the Jigo, then lobjing up there at the country to chew, rate up in a joker getting out of motor on Jima Joker one the Jondo, and the reaching out of the chair one the Jago is a me of watching Hakos on one day of watching them, and you go church or is on that to Joker again.
And so generally when we talk about Tantra, we talk about Tantra that you must have an empowerment to practice Tantra. However, even without an empowerment, it's okay to study this practice and actually without having studied this practice, it's probably not going to be very easy for you to actually achieve the empowerment when you get an empowerment. So I thought it would be nice for us today to study this, and then some point in the future when you can get the empowerment.
Tani tande ngakanyamle in Tebachi Munyamli imba Jajare Mato teaching the Tebachung Nakanyamle Ziachime. Sonta tan Penangato Joker Taki and Rawachi Yamne Chetonchina Tomartel, Nemjo Yapochisa, Nemjo Atsumocho Mombochitari, Nemjo T. Wangata, Yabos at Sanki Chutan in the last of the Japsam the Sambeni Patel, Jamjo Yapochichi.
And so in Tantra, of course, it is really important that we have strong faith, strong confidence in this practice and in white Tara. And so the first thing when you do this practice is you need to develop very strong renunciation, this mind that definitely wants to arise from samsara. And then on the basis of that renunciation or this desire to get out of samsara, then you take refuge.
Well, that is the lessons. If nearly that thing, check it, not you didn't got the Sandra to catch him with shoes. That had to go and be covered. So was reported to some airport, the lotus of some much, and he goes out in some row in and some airport. In the touch is a joker going in the joker Katanganda or Shantigal, Chomsham to some much shoes in the Java, Takupa, Ginical, Sandra shoe catching with the in the Joker to check get on when you can only check on your songs. But the kitchen was shoot it at the
And so just one thing that before we start, one thing I forgot to mention though is in action Tantra and performance Tantra, which are the two lower Tantras, it's really important to clean things really well. So it's really important to clean your room, to clean your place. You have a nice altar with a tanka of in our case, white Tara. And so it's really important both in terms of your actions and in the things around you that you you do things cleanly and well. This is really important in the first two types of tantra.
아니 자야나리나 고바지안도 샤지안도 두슈은잼거래 베나 라멘도 지근나리오나 단다 늘 샤창도 저거들을 이제 샤창도 저시 단잼거 말이 샤타 창도 단다 라멘 그나리오니 단다 자juk 그나리 고바지안도 샤지안도 다 좀마틱 can도 요사고 다 창대안도 저를 자말리안잼도 슈치고래 세고.
It's also very important in the lower tantras that we do not eat meat, and that we do not eat garlic, we do not eat things with a bad smell. This is not required in the highest yoga tantra, but in the lower tantras, it's considered very important to give up things like meat, garlic, and things that sort of have a bad smell.
Whatri is ni samlo tang the touching jamjo kichitlata, Kori dingar telingaro chipo tarazango majuka semja tamchan kori dingali tatap chichego news. What the Chivala Thomas also sangi namato, semja kyopto marpena, semja natali kyoala soso member yapochi machine kyomoto anaja, Papondo, what in soso semja dingali kyoala soso sangi koson, sangi in samba, semke yapochi.
And so, on the basis of having generated this mind that definitely wants to get out of samsara, and this mind that is taking refuge in samsara, or taking refuge in the three jewels, then on the basis of that, you contemplate the suffering of samsara, and you think, well, it's not just me that's suffering, it's all sentient beings that are suffering. And so through thinking this way, of course, we generate bodhicitta, and we think about the fact that how can we actually help all sentient beings? So just as when you're sick, you need a doctor. So you need to become a doctor to help people. In that way, we generate bodhicitta, which is this aspiration to become a being capable of helping all of these mother sentient beings that are suffering in samsara.
Also, that ni semke to chesarsikita, na sangi guna sangi nyamlin chiche gure nyamlin chevala, na chitsa doma karbu ngol sangi vi tablam cheson sangi tirini zonte doma karbu gomdrup chegiyens, na nyamlin.
No,
Dokar ko gomdrup dakye chegiyens, the dakye chata sangi vi tablam rawa.
And so, now that we have done the common preliminaries of renunciation, refuge, and generating bodhicitta, then we think about doing this practice that will allow us to arise as this Buddha, which in this case is in the essence of white Tara. Right? So this practice, then you think, okay, well, in order to help all these sentient beings, I will do this practice to become this manifestation of Buddha, which is white Tara.
Ani jita dokar do chi gomyondi ta so gomtandal ramba trikshe ore tomba yike jazik ta chagya tama tru zenita ramba do trikshe ore.
And so in this, there are 6 steps in arising as this manifestation of the Buddha, white Tara.
Sonta ta gomtan tombo te tombi haziat gomgre tombi ha gomziat tu tomba ni gomiatare tomba ni goti soso den go kitum chaya po chineni soso ni manga to shia na yala nyala la so patanta da pombo tango chikata la so pa te ta yana sa cheme nomjo angela so patanji ma tsina zawani ni tisona rakamari ni landro te maze soso gomcha ge chitsan droma la so pa ga Geshe Lharampa Rangrig Dorjee, right? Tamche pa zesona bomba ngama to zesona kyoni raya match tu dika ko toni gol sangoma tartan gom chal khan romani gol tombani po chigo atal tombi la gom zeni tombo te kechemure.
So the first of these 6 it's listed, we translate this as 6 deities. It's the 6 steps in the self-generation. The first of these steps generations is the deity as emptiness. This can primarily be understood as a meditation on emptiness. And so, what we want to do is then just take our seat and sit well, and we can go through the kind of thinking that we talked about in the previous class with examining the relationship of the self to the aggregates. You can think about this idea that when you search for the self, you can't find it. And you can also expand that to think about that, okay, any phenomena that when you search for it through this ultimate analysis, you fail to find it. And so through that, you generate this understanding of emptiness. And this is the first of the 6 deities, the deity as emptiness.
That's what ni tomba nyete yapo chi gonsan din sondeta tani lag agenda wote ki orin ta jamba ngashi ngashi le jinkam dans jai khanda tanji mombo goma yore tanda tela tanji drama drama komni so tomba ni gombi sem tagarant tomba ni gombi sem tagarant so desa jetal so marna wachini ti jetal meto pema tanji
Kenegit so tipo mi non wachini
tantra tantra meto pama karbochi jeti gon le dawa non je kor ka tin karbo kor chi yo pachi ti gon wat ti gon de la tani tari tari so aji pishnari te korana ko ke ki yo pa tombo te combattle tani tomba yike ghaze gomro ni patere yike la.
And so the second deity is the deity as letters. And so in this meditation on emptiness, so all of the normal appearances of your body and the room and everything have disappeared. It's because all of you are seeing is this emptiness. And so in this emptiness, then you visualize the arising of a lotus flower. On top of the lotus flower, a white moon disk appears. And then around the edge of that white moon disk, you have the mantra of our meditational deity, in this case, Tara, so Om Tari Tari Soha, or the white Tara, that arises around the edge of the moon disk.
Shizara, Tesavla Tan Shizara Tombot. Thank you so gongona Tombot Savla Tan to Zare.
What do you think about this? You think you're able to do this?
So des settlement of karma pamandama chingochi David and Chitingol Nako Tari so as a cordiach. Corzea Marco, no corchini, you are Nipatere Tombo Tombani to Gomtara, Nipatere.
So to state that again, then of course, so the first one is the deity as emptiness, which is meditation on emptiness. And then in the state of meditating on emptiness, you visualize or arises the lotus flower, on top of which is the white moon disk, and around the edge of the white moon disk is the mantra of the white Tara.
Tani Sambatal Jai Laziat, Tani Soso desa Soso Salo Matanity, Yiketal Tari Tari so as in Yike Corona Tat on it. Tatam de Atanichi Gom Jamni. Sambat, Yike Corona Tata de Ach, so Jikochi Chapping, what in Aja, Yike the Corona Tata on the Ach, Samatari, Nato Kal Dundiam.
So the third one, the deity as sound. So we've had emptiness, letters, and now sounds. The deity as sound. So you're visualizing in the meditation of emptiness, you're visualizing the flower, the moon disk, and the mantra around it. The actual letters of the mantra around it. And so from the letters of the mantra around it is arising the sound of the mantra. So it's as if the sound of the mantra is just arising by itself from the visualized mantra around the edge.
What they gom certainly, Tanda Jatavi Kabla Tenima, Japan Chile, Sanjigla, Chopatan, Chenles, Tiget Sertala, Tanda Yike to Soli, wasn't Raman Ramon, wasn't Kashi Jinkam to Soli Yandroni, Sandia, the Jancho Sepalas of Chopa Mompia, the Jinkam, Yike Jamban, Roaj to Glass of Panakan, same Chank, Nasa Sewa, Kanga Sewa, Tampe. Pento Samji Majapaji Johnson, Samba Pass, Lassam Nandak, Shasha Chegoritate, Ni Yan Chopan, Kachimbochi was at the Trunipe, Sam Chalato, Mombochi Cherry or Samba, Lassam Nantachi, Sam Tangori, tell him Zapanchalinda will set.
And so at this point, then we imagine that multicolored light emerges from this flower, moon disk, and the mantra, and shoots out and covers all the different realms. So it goes up to the realms of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and makes offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And it also goes out to all the 6 realms of all the beings and satisfies all the beings. It frees them from all of their pain and suffering. And so goes out and makes offerings and does what we'd say making offerings and performing the enlightened activities of the Buddha.
Lasso. Tani Tesaulo dancers, Tanita, Hangoni Gomsatini, then was at some at the Koro, not on the Septum Jovi Caps, and not on the St. Joan, not on 33, so now let's certain one. Then he not in Joan carried lumps of Ketchikutini, not the Soso Yimbalangas, is not the Tombani Topi Shirap, the Naga Daja Capital Kirja Pombo, and Gondra with Nisaulo Matan, Tombani Topi Shirap Ranga, tanda ngang chong da chi ba yo sing ro ni ani ji ma drama karmo pa me ka nam ba chen lo chi ting na ngang so ta la pa pa ani tar ka na za ta so su yo pa ani cha yom ban de ni chob jin ji cha ja zeng do cha yi ba no le me to ka pa li nam ba chob jin ji cha chob jin ji chob mu chob jin ba ma sem chen la mu chob jin go pi ka sha chob mu chob ze ti tar ba ta tam chen ji bi lam do ten ri chi wa ta tong pa te ji ta ta ma ma
Okay, and so you visualize this light that represents the offerings to all of the Buddhas and the enlightened activity of all the Buddhas, which is freeing all the sentient beings from the six realms from all of their suffering. And so you imagine now all of that light absorbs back into the lotus, this visualization you have of the lotus, the moon disk, and the mantra. And as it comes back in, then just spontaneously the mantra and it arises into the deity, but you should understand that it's not your normal body turning into the deity. It's actually the wisdom, the mind of the wisdom realizing emptiness that is arising as the body of the deity. And in the body of the deity, we had a nice photo in the oh no, you sent me the photo. So I'll show you a photo of White Tara, just so I should probably put that in the group. So you also, if you've never seen it, this is White Tara. So she's in the body of a female. It's a young, beautiful female of 16 years that has one face, two arms. The right hand is in the gesture, which is the young. So it's the mudra that is giving the blessing of freeing liberation and enlightenment. And okay. And so this one is just holding the Utpala flower.
Ko de kyan na ni re ikul kyan chi cha ni kana la kyan chi jam ni kana la kyan chi la ta sem chen gan joton ze ko sa kyan mom bo sem chen la zgi yo pi chon don ra chi ta te pa te son na ta to pan ra wi sa re ta ni ka pun chon don del pa sem chen le kyan mom bo ma zgi ke re le kyan ton yo ra te na ji ko le kyan deng sem chen gan joton bi che ta zgi de sem chen le te wa yo pan chon bi che ta ta ko le kyan deng man ra wa chi ni pa wa chi ta ma ra oh.
And so in the photo, I don't know if you guys can see it, but White Tara has 7 eyes. So she has 3 eyes on her face, and then 1 on each of her hands, and 1 on each of the bottom of her feet. And just in the way that Chinrezi has 1,000 arms and the many eyes, and then the 1,000 eyes as well, I think there's 1 on each one of his hands, in that so that they can see and help all sentient beings. In the same way, White Tara has these eyes, so she is able to see and help all sentient beings.
Well, that the Jitsa drama Chiaki on the Jitsa drama to Jamba Sakamarta, Susuri, Nari, Nachita drama Chason. Take some Namta, Narja Shuja, Nakanal, Hay Narjat, so Tamalvachi and Sambat. You cut it Totochi, not half Rai Sambachi, Najita drama. Carmota Taran, Bangatani, and David Dangaton, Judeo, Sambachi, some Nantapa, so I Shashache, tell to my be Dakis in Napan, the Dakis, so I some what
And so it's very important that you don't think of this visualization as something else or separate from you. You have to really, as much as you're able to put aside your normal appearance, your everyday appearance, and really arise, identify yourself as this visualization of deity. This is really important. This is really what we talk about as in terms of Tantra, as self-generation, is really having this firm pride that I have become, or I am this deity. Right? So that's really important. This is really the self-generation.
Tanda ndosho pachena ngacho sangye wala nyomo pango gres nyomo gutawa danza pango sonza danza de panjare zeni deshia tomato tilioma no shopoti gona nyomo pango re danza pango re tiyimba mazela soso tamalwa yensambi no ata jemba te en panchajan tini chikban ro ke chembo sedre sonza no penyale ha gomi tseza rani ha kan gomna te yin shasha samno tana nga ta mi tapcha chi nang gongu che yo samba tan ri tsawani ni saw
so the nimong Dimong Tak Tema Se di Tamapa di So when we think about becoming a Buddha in the context of the sutra teachings, what we think about is that the objects of abandonment are the objects of negation, in a sense. The things we're trying to get rid of, we could say, are our afflictions, and the most important of those afflictions is the self-grasping. However, when we think about Tantra, we have on top of that, we have this idea of our normal appearance of our sort of normal appearance, right? So we also want to. So we have this object of abandonment that is thinking of ourselves as just sort of a normal person. So this normal appearance. And so that is also an object of abandonment. So it's incredibly important in practice of Tantra that we get rid of that and we really think I am the in this case white Tara.
So tini o tini samlo ta tan la gom se tan da jipat la le jipat la zikr la ziyat ta ti so la lo zimoni ta la samlo ta on sa jipat zikr la on ba la yike la ja la zikr la
And so this arising as the as the deity, this self-generation, is the fourth of the six, which is the deity as form.
So tini they gondala chargi laziachi or charjat nakatama timbozo and our tendency yo jamba atka hons in the charja some chini ahung nachi joni yo chik jambal architatka honchik so had the tembo cheson samba sound chitana el charja has in la tikatal sound tangori la napatri.
So the deity as mudra, I believe, is what I wanted to translate that as. Yeah, so the deity as mudra, which is the fifth one. So we have emptiness, letters, sound, form, and now the fifth one, deity as mudra, is visualizing that we have Om Ahum. So you have an Om at the top of your head. So right there, you have an Om right here. Then you have a Ah at your throat and a Hum at your heart. And so this is in visualizing. This is visualizing is the fifth deity, the deity as mudra.
Tembochi, the Latame Tembochi ni there. That's a zonji, not Now you had to sort of Tembo Yon, which is the non zonji period, Tinta, which Omahonga, Tembochi. Hacker to sort of Omahon Jagri, the Sojata, Hacker to sort of not to so my Jarna, Tangata Sojavri, that Omahon trip. General, she had the Jigu, so let and you go Mahonga, Yatabjan and Hagum because Jambachi, no Pando Mijo, etc.
Okay, so and this is important because just as like when we have a tanka and we get the tanka blessed and they do the Om Ahum on the tanka, right? This is a way of making the deities sort of stable or firm. So it's a really important step in terms of the visualization and the identification of the deity. It's like in the sense when you get a tanka blessed, you're imagining that same idea of Om Ahum on yourself, which is sort of, let's say, making the deity firm or stable.
Ani Tamata Lazikal have Gomondita, Korunga Nikatel.
How that dinner rather than that.
Where at the
Okay, so yeah. Sorry.
Tanda Tani Karachik Gomgore Zenata, the Chich Samno Tangore, and the Jet the country sound on the Sosoga, the Nikatel, your Davi Dawa. No, the kin, the kitchens are at David Davanaj, Cargo coaches are on the Tino, Latanda, Tari, so not tombo on the Bojays on the Sheo Maritazi at Tombo on the Tammy, some tango is Tagi kitchen. In cat, David Cocondo, a tingo leak, touches out.
The Yanati Kikor, the Tina, and so now we're moving on to the part where we talk about the front generation, and to start this off, you imagine a moon disk standing up in your heart like this with the letter Da, which is the seed syllable for White Tara, sitting on the moon disk like this.
다시 요파사로 따따들이 워선 총니 지점 장로 장근인 총리 안로니 지자로마 견장 지점마 조마가 보 견장님들마 견장 아니 떨리안 초바 피알라 소바타 왕기 할라 소바 드님 초피라다 소드니 데니다 드님 초바다 소야피 타마들 지점마 조마카모 따가라마 요니 소소 곰데야 지자 조마카모들 파틈 조그리 찍진 본이 찍진 자원방 니스메 퍼지르제나 빈도 데케다 다케 찬로 마 집바 찬로 데카르세티 지단 모니 조마 모니도 펜키온 소소로 찍먹으레 집바 치자레 선상다 모니가 지자마 레선삼비 사운로 템보요 이제.
And so from this visualization of the thumb, the thumb, I said da, but it's actually thumb syllable at your heart, light shines forth and invites the White Tara from the Potala, invites White Tara to come down, and White Tara comes down, descends in front of you, and then at this point you make offerings to White Tara. You can ask for the empowerment, and after making the offerings, White Tara then absorbs into you, and you can think, okay, now I'm really, really White Tara because I've absorbed White Tara into my visualization of myself as White Tara.
Last one, your the wizard to Jawaringa Dentrani. Jawaringa the Ma Dentrani to so Wanker. Wanker, one get up and one get on the world children and then don't better so don't teach you on the support some Tamatan Jandro, Yaposhuchi Chasomachi, and each of them at the Jesse Lanita or Pomika with them. Well, and the person or Pomich on your Pomich go. What did you watch it, Jamba? What did you sound like?
And so after that, once again, light shines out from your heart and invites what would we say, the Buddhas of the 5 lineages to come. And the Buddhas of the 5 lineages give you offerings and give you empowerments. And they also pour the nectar on your head, and then the nectar on the head sort of overflows and turns into the Buddha Amatayas.
What did you on the Tani? So good have gone back and now just temple or shoes on that. Tama gone the Tamil has a Tankara social Jitadroma, Yeshashi, the girl, and the Daddy Dawa Chujura, the Dio setting all Daddy to resource, not the Yopach, not the Jatra. Then you gom jam it, and temple, Jenny gom jam, get there. Get there go and Tamil has in it, Lazareta. Gom Tantra upon Tama, Lazaro, a Chandra Sarita, Katsi Gomtona. And
the Kapsu, the
not the so Kaga John K. You're a Majan Nikoro Jelly, Yemba Naji, no, you don't think Walma, no Jamba Jamada, you read that Tama Yipashim Guachiro, content not in all Jatra de Achibom Najum, and you go me up with Yamni data, Tamasag Jamni, that's all in the Yaposhi, which you pingre.
And so the last one, what we'd say the deity as signs, is now that you're continuing to visualize yourself as White Tara, and in the center of your chest now you have this white moon disk, and around the moon disk you have the mantra. And so you continue to make this visualization as stable and as solid and as clear as you can, and you can either just visualize the mantra, or you can actually say the mantra while you're doing this. You can hear the mantra, but the main point here is to really just solidify, to make this visualization of yourself as the deity as stable as possible.
Jerry Gom Kayanana Chase needs some Trinity Gom Nandri, Jerimbo Katsi Gom Nandri, that's also Katsi Gom Toto. The Nichi Moni Sosojita Droma, no one over sharp, Gom Lolo Yapoyon and Katsi, Pajerimbo Jana Yakayore. Much you Mate and Rotanichona, and Yisoki they Gom Javere.
And so you can do this. At this point, you can do this visualization essentially as long as you're able. You can just continue to meditate and try to see yourself as the deity. You can take a rest and come back and keep practicing it. But really, as long as you're able to do this meditation, then there's lots of benefit to this, to visualizing yourself as this deity.
아니 ngapatni nyamle chi kapsan samsam le jena la ndawo da chi ma ki batni yongo reze ti kaptar su changjo ko sem na ta so ya ko ko me ke chi mo reze yo jampeng ga samlo de ja choni tanda la shi chi mo go mondi so le jena la ndawo ta sem ma ki batni yongo ti ni je ta changjo ko sem ya ko go nda ya so ma lo cha ka reze na bi concentration so ndo e ya cha ke chi ko isa.
So it's also very important, something that His Holiness has said, is that sometimes when you do this kind of practice and you're visualizing yourself as the deity, it's very possible you can become scared or nervous, or your mind can become unhappy or disturbed. And so at that point, the best thing to do is to meditate on bodhicitta, meditate on compassion, meditate on helping others. And this will help calm your mind, because it is very possible that this meditating on yourself as the deity could lead to fear, anxiety, stress, or what did I say? Yeah.
Yes. Otani dawo chigre tani nyamare de gomte kuran sam jati lata so pa tombing on pa de tom nan rigre yang pa tomba nyet chi tama gomye ni tsasa lanjang nan rigre yang gomye kashi gun jona dingna nyena rangom nin jongkya de ayo ro wo de nga chi ta doma ro yo sambachi ni ku ikawle nga chi ta doma ye ni ku ya sambachi tenji gomba jame pa ta so tenji ko so sawan di panya me shu che ra jona sawan di panding na sawan di panya na sawan di pa ni ko so tenji la ando tenji chengya yo sa ta ko so ar so na ke gombi kap te gom ro ikawle an so na chi ni jona e and ko re.
So it's also possible, it's not just a matter of doing this meditation when you're sitting, it's also very possible to do, there are practitioners who do this practice, understanding themselves as White Tara when they're going places, when they're sort of resting, hanging out, when they're sleeping, right? So this is a practice that you can actually do sort of all throughout the day, all different times, depending on doing different activities. It's not just a matter of doing it on your cushion.
Otani ke chembo chi nga ji sa drama ya samba chi samlo de tamarwa chi kini control ta nga ja tandi sa wa ni chi ji sa drama ya sonsa se wa ta ni je ga ta ni tomba ni la so bi shira ko ta ni sem chang ro tong ga ta samlo ya te ra ma to yo samlo de tamarwa dik ja chi chi sona ta ni la gomba cha ka marta.
It's also really important to remember that when you're visualizing yourself as White Tara, and you're thinking, I am the deity as White Tara, you really need to remember that you should be thinking as White Tara too, right? So you shouldn't be getting jealous, you shouldn't be getting angry. You really should have this mind that has this great love, this great compassion, that has this understanding of emptiness, wisdom, bodhicitta, right? So it's not just a matter of I'm White Tara and visualizing yourself, it's also the way of thinking of White Tara, which is really important.
Chilo ko zipon dan nan ko samlo nika la rang samlo tan in rawat no ka tamo mai bi nyam le te la rang samlo tan ni tenji la yin samba samlo ya la samlo zipon ya la zipon ya samba sa cha ya la gi jin kam yin samba tenji samlo tan dun tani tanda go gom ni nyam le ya potum na tani kale te mu si ken on ri ni ma chi so jiza drama karmo ra cha ro re jiza drama karmo nyam le chin ke chin ne sa je me la nyam le chin ke chin na ni ma chi sang je me la cha ro re jambe nyam le chin ke chin ni ma chi jambe ng mo sang je ro re ta te do je chang ko ma to song ze dia te ze.
So if you do this practice and you really are understanding that your body has become, that you're visualizing this body as White Tara, your mind, your way of thinking is White Tara, that your surroundings are the mandala, the sort of palace of White Tara, and you do this practice all the time, every day, then eventually, really, truly, you can become this White Tara, this deity.
Otani dawo chi re ta te cha kyo ko je ko la gom sar su dawo chi te re cha kyo ko je ko tanda gom sar chi ko ni la kar gom na tin ro re ta na sa te ro jo kar la pe na pe ja re ni ke re zin ro yin na re kar yin na re tanda mu gom je la ta man ra re nok ta so man ra re gom tong ta tanda re chi pa.
In the previous time I saw, he also said this isn't something that's specific to White Tara, right? So this is if you're visualizing yourself as Chinrezi, if you're visualizing yourself as any of these deities, over time you can become the deity. And So this structure of the 6 deities is common to all of the action tantra sadhana. So Chinrezi sadhana, it's the same. There's different sadhanas, and so each sadhana there'll be a different deity, but you'll have the same structure. This is confusing. So we say the 6 deities, which is this deity is where the deity is emptiness, deity is form, deity is sign, right? But there'll be different yidams. There'll be like Chinrezi, Tara, all of these different yidams in the practice. But they'll have the same structure of the 6 deities in that practice.
Number two going on the
so this is true in the lower tantras of action tantra and performance tantra. They have the structure of the 6 deities.
Tani ta namjo jetla telita tesango nyotamon takietang the kietan chigzeni mombo yore ta chamba jimukwachi namjo gelion telites mandawachi gonta yore lapon tani or namjo gel tandi chigre ta jib chatri jigum tandi kichu
so when you get past the action tantra and the performance tantra and you get the yoga tantra and of course highest yoga tantra, of course it is different. The process of meditation and doing these things is quite different.
Teni gete nimboram nikini nam chaja toni sombai taja nam cha choli mai o matam bi sonje de perchingi lav zeta yonde jikinon te blame ke kechare teni gete nimboram nikisi te gete gete nimboram bani ze gete na nimboram bani ze at Marmar, yonde jikoro.
Oh, yonde jikoro. Oh, okay.
Yonde jikoro ni tana.
Oh, di tamala.
No, tamara teni gide ni bore ni kisi.
Kiwa gende mare.
Teti gandi atut. Tanda gandi. What teti
okay.
Teni gide ni bore ni kini na chistoni sombai taja namja chonim. Tambe sonje joper chibingi labze atatu lame kungol. Ta gerde nongi rambar ni zeata lamel chengo kebi ramba ta zopi ramba zeni ni ore jamiki ni namche jaton som ta concert ya pochi shini tanje zeti hakoson imare le tanje je chite sum cheni chite juni tse ya pochi go tanje namjo choli mayon nyamling choli mayon wa kyo tamba ne ma nyamling kanji china te no ji ngala
So now we're going to go back to the root text here, which is the foundation of all good qualities. And the next verse here that we're reading is, then, having realized the importance of the 2 stages, the essence of the Vajrayana, by practicing with great energy, never giving up the 4 sessions, please bless me to realize the teachings of the Holy Guru. So in this case, when we talk about those 2 stages, what we're talking about is the generation stage and the completion stage of the tantric practices, which are the essence of the Vajrayana. And so then it says, by practicing with great energy, never giving up the 4 sessions. So the 4 sessions is the idea that we would practice this. We would practice these practices every day 4 times. So that's the reference of the 4 sessions. And then you're asking essentially for the blessing for whichever yidam you're working on realizing, you're asking the blessing from the Guru to actually be able to realize this practice.
So tata lame kana lani musi gijib chatri shi me tanga suni ma mombo shi uchi shi tare tadi choyo mara ane la ke jirin bi kawin jab lame ke ngacho sem chara tantan ani tanda tumrup gerni tan Geshe Pardosam Yewata Shivata Pardosam la Pumni Nagyar Satanga Sungi Mombo Shetar Lame Rank Geshare Gede Omata Geshe Pardosam da Yarata Zawomino longtemps that it's okay at the Union. He got an Atsunima the Dal Mombo Shushata get the
So in the previous classes we talked quite a lot about the different minds and the subtle and very subtle minds. We also talked about the different stages of the bardos in the death process. And these are teachings that are actually contained in the higher tantras. They're not actually contained at all in the lower tantras. This idea of working with the winds and channels and these subtle minds. These are practices or teachings from the higher tantras.
Tongban jambe yangum, tongban chewa chukalam kigo tani jambe yangum tani jikche gomba tani numa so chikje tsari takyo so di YouTube na on tevja on ya tsina rajer. Lame ke lagom se teri no jen chikpa chikjon jikche le yarni nga so juyor ni ma. Jambe yang.
Jambe yang. Ini gomba tika youngers.
Ta lame ke lagom se ti yema nga tsun tsenje te jikche le yarni sheyor. Parto jikche yo. Jikche tsenje jani teri da chikpa tombo kare gombo nipa kare gombo samba kare gombo chama ju tsari ti YouTube na on kyo so yang jo yongsan na ya tsina ni ma jaya. Ti tsandra.
The curry the not so the high natural key in the
Lamek lai namjo gomsar. Zuru tenjikche gomsar the sheo.
Okay. And so if you want to review what we talked about previously, which is in the high Sarga Tantra, how you bring the different stages of life and death onto the path, you can look at the previous classes and reference that.
Tani jeta sanga ka kortsil gashi ga nasama shuchi ni mal shian rawo tanji lok jong rawo chi alia sab shu chen ge ri chi ori a chongching ni ye zu ko yang bon rawo chi ori a so gil ku nya na ni chen an khejo rum bo chi pa ti ko le def shu mom bo chi so ni te zu ko yang bon no ja ori ani jar bo chi ga ting go wan chen la so ka ma yong zo lo na ni tanji ko yang bo chi ge ori song sa nga chö yang su jar bo chi nga so Tayu lama tang dojen ki ngaka lama ko chakti o sasa korungun zepa nanji chini nga tsoya tezi te nanji koyambo chini tezi ngaka so lo gyanchi koyambo chini tenji kore su ngaka ndrotan tezo soso gu lama jeja chini manjo undwa lama te tambo chini na soso gu yang tambo chi lama ti koyambo chido nungu le soso kayambo nga chowa te ngaka tomo mayi mundro ton nga riso konser choko sonde konser choko mungu yon zo le tingo wan chinda roka go wan ra tezo tsama nande uri sonza nga tso nga lo gyanchi ni keyo ki mari samu tambo shira chego ki mari
Nga to the nga lo chunchi.
Gashi nga klo no te shia yo ma shia yo zeni shia ma sama che na nga te shia na ke yo ki mari san nga ro so na konsan jo ko ke tri konsan jo ko sama te so de na te na je ni je ja na ke yo ki mari sam
So there, the way that we practice and we understand and think about Tantra depends on our root lama. And because for most of us, our root lama is His Holiness, and His Holiness has had has repeatedly allowed and had a permissive sort of view of talking about and teaching Tantra compared to other lamas where it's very secret and you wouldn't be talking about that. So one of the reasons that we can talk about this openly and have this class and do this is because our root lama is His Holiness, and the way that we should practice and understand things comes from our root lama. And so because of that, and because His Holiness has encouraged people to study and talk about these things to this extent, that we are able to actually have this class and talk about this in this way that's semi-open.
Lasa tani ta tamal molam jawo de na sholo kani mangala ma so ma tsarchi ki te ta labza to mishani ta tsaje to pichona jate cha chata nang ki parti chopi so nyor jor chingi labta sor zedita so labza mbo to mi so lama ta ani so chucho la so pati tam so bi ko tamal chanung ko parche chuni me pala lam ta so yapo yonwa tenji ga lama la ich la no chis
and so then the next verse, like that, may the gurus who show the noble path and the spiritual friends who practice it have long lives. Please bless me to pacify all outer and inner hindrances.
So give shenyere tani so chucho la so pa so tamal chatang gi parcha me kendra me parcha me pa ta parcha so ma jendo yetam
and so then now here we're asking the blessing of the Yidam and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that may all of our teachers and all of our friends and family and everyone, all of our fellow practitioners, may all of their obstacles be cleared.
Then Jimat Molam, the Kiwakan, the Yandalama, and Ramichuki Paralon, Satan Lamio, Dorjee Chongi Company of shows it. But Kiwakan, the sitting at the Taman, but Sechimani, Yanjo, so Dotanga Chutin, Lama Talancheva Maz, Katina Chunyam Jenny, and this Satan Lam is it, Yondin the Sukali Yakin Tama, Dorjee Chons in a knuckle, Sanji Mire. And so
in the next verse, which is the last verse, and these last two verses you can think of as verses is concluding. I forgot the word in English. I'll come back to that. So the last verse, in all my lives never be separated from the perfect gurus. May I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of the stages and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. And so here you're asking for this blessing that in every life, all of your rebirths, you'll be able to continue. You'll be able to continue in practice. You'll be able to gradually increase. Go through the different stages of the 5 paths and the 10 grounds, and slowly over time, continually improve and improve and improve. And eventually, through this, you'll be able to attain the state of Vajradhara, which in the context of Tantra really is just achieving the state of Buddha.
Sonsa danga tsuyo teji keta tsari ngo shanyi tensen inter zonji dorjin changa gomba matur pubar kun lam gun rotan sama te raksam jik jiware marungu samdan de yo teji kerke nachu ngocho te yapochi chang son sam son ngoni tandani chik te yapochi kyochi ngungi sona nachu zaya te gogo namba te tsogu chu chetan de kanji rikyo chomu zina kari rang zina kari rindo zina kari ngao zina kari sama te kyoso shabrab chi ngo shin jogore tani So
now here we've finished this. We've finished the foundation of all good qualities, and my thinking in this was that by studying the foundation of all good qualities, you will have an overview. You'll have a sort of a general idea of all of the different stages of the path. So you'll have an introduction to the idea roughly of what the practices of the small scope, the medium scope, the greater scope, also the practices of Vajrayana or Tantra. And so you'll get a very rough general idea of the structure of this thing, of these different paths. And then, of course, going in deeper and studying these things in detail takes a lot of time and a lot of practice and a lot of study. But you do at least get a broad overview of the whole path by studying this prayer.
Last one, then you try and run away.
Okay, great. If you want to have questions. Anybody? Surely you got a question. Come on, we covered like some crazy stuff.
I can think of a question. So this practice, one of the aims of this practice, daily yoga, is to deconstruct the self. Is that true?
Deconstruct the self in Tibetan. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of how to translate deconstruct the self. So, yeah. Can you explain what you mean by that for me? Let me think of
kind of recognize the self as fabrication. It's a concept.
Okay, I can ask that. Yeah. So the lai gong the naki gaps the lai gong the nikyu the kongichiwa the takte the sugyok trouble munjing ki mikyo tereves.
Gombi Mui Moni to get on in Doshop Tachipari Sanji Chitri. Doshop Nang Samlo, the Yargitan, the Atichu Pombo, the Yargitan. Not to have Gomondi, Nang Samlo, Pombo Nika Yargitan, Nang Sem Zachi to Zamegun, Chiloko Pombo Zachi to Zamen work in the content, Lisem Kanga, Hagoya, Sanji Moya, and Geraldi Tashi Jean.
So the goal of Tantra is the same as the goal of Sutra, in that the goal is to achieve Buddhahood. The difference is that in Tantra, you have a method both for improving your mind and improving your body, and so that while you're practicing it, you're both improving your mind, creating the mind of the Buddha, and you're creating the body of the Buddha at the same time. That's the sort of the biggest difference.
Doshop when Yablin, Mandrava, Tanjigo, shows the pond on ensemble, Nika Gomjam Ninjona. ya chumje to ya hajan nyer mo sang ji wal ta nyer in ro hajan do sholi nyer wa re se wala nyer lam nyer wa zin li lawa
and so this is understood that by doing both of these at the same time, through this meditation on the deity, by improving your mind and your body at the same time, this is understood to be a very fast method.
Tani gom jamna konsan chokona je chik song ndo an jawa tende dro yo sare chik jikche gom de res jikche yo to jikche gom de te ko te ni je dan semke te so ya po me sare ani gom di parshil koro zikpol njawan mukt so pa chaksam ba cha
de to jikche
la chi ra yi tam chi ran jikche mukt so chaksam ba cha a so mukt ne ro ya chaksam cho na no chota so man ku tong di chet so range me de ke kya ni chon ro je no sa mo de cha kar che on ze ji ma chamba ta ni je so ya po gom ze di tani ma le chang ro mo ni gom jam na cholo lo zu po le ching je wan ro de se je wan na ni de la
c'est des concepts qui
so ngu ko ro ta la mu de ma la ma chi ko de cha
so there's a story that His Holiness told that one person was meditating. I don't know I can't remember the exact name of the yidam, but it's a wrathful yidam. And so there's peaceful and wrathful yidams. And so meditating a lot on one of these wrathful yidams, the eyes got very scary. This person became very scary and was even scaring away children because the body was starting to become like the deity.
I have a question. And sorry about my silly question, actually, because Geshe said that in this meditation on the deity, it's important to not only visualize ourselves as the deity, but also to generate the mind of that deity. And then I want to know what is the difference between the white Tara mind, like this mind that we have to generate, the difference between the white Tara and the Cherenzi mind that we have to generate. Because he mentioned that the white Tara, we have to generate this compassion, these things, but what is the difference?
Okay. So not to the supotan semnika the lagi supotan semnika so kongichiwa karisena the chinese kisem tam tokar kisem the kebar yerebe
ta kirtani ta kanza mandrawa ga sem roi son sa tezi kabriyo ta su de jesa ga chani kabriyo ma kere zgi yanara sem chana sewa ta ni che ga dani yimba chu tam chana tomba ni ki samlo yo pa chu pa ni jimba tsumna so pinyamle tarchimba yimba jita droma ina yo ta ran son sa Yamlin tarchimba chi chi kyang yin son sa gombi kabliya tong ni to bishira da ta ki samlo ngil tang to so ji ja chi ro ja na ri ko no samlo tang
so essentially they're the same. There's a difference in the basis of the mind, but the mind itself, because the mind is a mind that's meditating on emptiness and a mind that's directed toward the welfare of all sentient beings, that is essentially the same. That aspect of the mind is essentially the same because they are both minds that are meditating on emptiness and minds that are directed toward the welfare of all sentient beings, full of love and compassion.
Sonza la kargo na nang samlo ma che sap chamba ta ni che ta thomba ni to bishira ngem chona so ba te so je ja ri chalo ko ze kon la manda wa son ko manda wa sam ta ni ko mer.
So whatever deity or yidam you're meditating on, you have this basis of renunciation, this conviction to erase from samsara, this wisdom realizing emptiness. You have love and compassion. So you have all of these as the basis of the mind. And so then you have the various external appearances of the bodies and things like that are different, but really that core mind is the same.
That's the Kyoto and you go in the third touch that the Shia no Jima Shalan go around Sari on them to go to truth.
So please, at some point, we'll come to the one machine.
Yonder Chena Kyo Martaking Elimba, not so yonder Chichena, Tamasa Jami Gumba, which kyonje mare sam gashi gom drig mare zinke yore tata keyo ma
Kêu mà kêu mong mình là thì
ta ko chumje ndo shuji wa yo pa na je to yo mare chumje ina ya ko na kina chol han jane ko me yo ta meditation je yo de to ko chon ro re sam
the meditation.
meditation ji ta den de chan ro asa na kin da manda gom go yo de na ji chan ro re ha mu chung mo mi me na ka nyam leng tu na ya gom ker ta ma chi chan ro
So it would be very good if you would go, and I misunderstood. I was thinking you were telling everyone to go and do this meditation in your rooms, and I said, well, if they don't have an empowerment, I don't think they actually can go do this meditation. And so I got the clarification that it would be very good if you would go and just meditate, and do practices that you're able to do every day. That would be.
What is needed for empowerment? How can we get empowerment?
So the one kind of one share gigoga kind of.
ta wan sha de sam le lama kera chimo de so song de do ni na mai na concern chok ko dok kar ko wa de so shiu song gre ta de so concern chok wa no ko ndu ta sam le che tan ya ma wa je kan ro is ya ma ndra ma ji kan wa de chu da so na ta da ma to tan din do ara kare zina ni ala ma to nga so ta sa ina ni ma tan da Tonde Rinpoche, one shoe more bonongre, there's no Tonde Rinpoche in the cancer chicken. That's a yama
So there are opportunities that happen around. I mean, His Holiness gave White Tara empowerment quite frequently in the past, although he's not giving as much now. And in Geshe Lha's Gompa and Geshe Lha's monastery, there was a Dongde Rinpoche that gave a lot of empowerment. So there's sort of empowerments that happen, at different times given by the high lamas. You just have to.
What can you say? So can you go up and yam in Chesamna? Can't hack on Mupayon that you want the Jara. Titi called Lord Johnson, last year gomna, Yaponda was Sigurd. And how long would you go on Gomyam Chimata,
and so it's also important that if you really just study well and practice one deity, you'll get a lot of benefit. But if you just take a lot of empowerments and try to practice a bunch of deities, then that may not be so beneficial.
Do you know Rinchen Trudok empowerment?
Rinchen
Trudok.
I think they're Nyingma, but I haven't asked them. They're Rinchen Trudok. The Nyingma gave one year. Yeah, he doesn't know. Yeah, we don't know. It's a Nyingma. I think it's a Nyingma cycle. I know the Gaelic. I don't. Other stuff I don't know. Okay. If no other questions, then we'll go ahead and stop.
Turning out on the Sandro. Only Tanda Chusam Lasani Nani and the Tachi Yore, the Church Tachi, Joanna Mombo Yonan, not a challenge in Chon and Dush.
So this class that we've been studying is finished. We can do another class Thursday. If you guys have a lot of questions and you want to do just a question and answer session, we can come back Thursday and do that. If you don't, we'll just take a break.
So goes in and so George and Rachini and goes in and Jajan and Rich Machet that Japago, Taringani on Jongonzaya, Carrezina, Kitaki Japan Gons carried and also the Mumar Tampo in his own son, the Mumar Taringal Kisha. Jepak, Ticabla, Consan Chopper, non bitter, Tantatu continually Junipa, so Shalaka Gomjatser.
The Gons of Junkie So after the break in August, we will have another class that we will be studying Chilaktam. So one of His Holiness's texts on the special insight in Kama Bhagavad.
What did it so Molam Chigabra?
So let's say a prayer.
Chanjo Semjorum, Marke Panam Gigi, number member one, Condom Paper Show, Tonya Tower and Bochim, Marke Panam Gigi, Number
Gone,
Gone,
gone.
Bewara, Sho. Rukman.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, good check. Finish, Asha.
Dedication, that's the word I was looking for.